the birds and the bees, the hanky panky. I feel like I'm showing my age because I don't think people say that anymore. I thought about this because there's this article from my university, Red Brick. This article said, "Why are young people having less sex?" I was looking for the word and I saw it was on the other side. Before we get into it, hi, my name is Xanthe, the feral academic, and welcome to the Authentic Academic Movement, where we're feral, honest, and anti-bullshit. This article talks about the Gen Z sex recession. Gen Z is having less sex than millennials, Gen X, and boomers at the same age. Why is Gen Z having less sex? The dating apps, it's killed dating, analysis paralysis, shallow connections. It's expensive to go out. Anxiety and depression are at all-time high. There's medication side effects. People are just stressed. I know this article is mainly focusing on the undergraduate pool. And I was thinking about the representation in TV shows and movies, the sex life of college girls. The countless amount of raunchy movies are always about college students and college students in the American sense. But you never really hear about the PhD student. Most people feel like PhD students don't have sex. There is a stigma, right? Culturally speaking, sex is still very ooh. Parents will be like, yes, you can watch this film where your favorite character gets beat to death, but it's a no-no when you have to see a kiss, some affection, something that's natural. Oh no. Why is it taboo? Because it's an older age group typically. There's this representation of the PhD student that has their life together. Some of the things that I've read include someone saying, in the PhD, you either come in single and you leave single, or you're married, or you get divorced on the way out of the PhD. When you're an undergrad, you're kind of like at this age of exploration. You're discovering what you like, what you don't like, your hormones are raging. When you're doing your PhD, it's more like work. You're not exactly just a student, but you're not exactly just a staff member. You're somewhere in between. There's less of a feeling that you can share your dating life with your peers because they can feel like colleagues rather than somebody you share intimate stuff with. PhD students are exhausted. A lot of the time it's like, well, being in a relationship is a distraction from work. Dating is a distraction from work because it's such an investment to have to keep in touch with someone, have to meet up with them. There were people that said that there's absolutely no middle ground. If you prioritize your PhD, the relationships suffer. If you prioritize your relationship, the PhD suffers. When you have kids, I imagine that's a whole nother ballgame. Usually your cohort is quite small, so everyone's going to know your business. It's not like a huge university. There's so many students coming through and it's like, oh, if you break up, most likely you'll be fine. In the PhD, you'll run into them. You'll be at the same post-grad events. And I might be saying this because I've been watching too much Bridgerton, but if there was a lady Whistledown in the PhD community, that would, And there was someone here that posted that they hooked up with the postdoc they were working with. Now they're nervous about the department, who knows. In my university, there's a lot of international students. Well, I'm one of them. I'm an American. There was this question of an international PhD student thinking about this, my cultural norms are not the same as the country that I'm in. This is a huge thing that a lot of people don't consider. Being in the UK, even though it's still English, the cultures are so different. I was listening to this podcast about an American who ended up marrying a Scandinavian. She said it was so weird that they never really defined the relationship for so long. She didn't really know how he felt about her, even though she assumed that they were kind of seeing each other. When she would try to make small talk with him, she'd be like, "Oh, so how was work?" He reacted like, "It was fine, I guess. Why are you asking about work?" And then she realized, oh, it's because Americans, we don't have a good work-life balance. So to us, to ask about work is just like asking someone any other like type of thing about themselves in the UK. Apparently, it's this unspoken thing that if you keep going on dates, you're exclusive. You don't have to say it, you're exclusive. But that's the complete opposite to a lot of Nordic countries. For them, it's more normal to like hook up on the first time you meet. And then you either never talk to each other again or you see each other and continue sleeping with each other. And then after a while, maybe after several months, they're like, so do you want to go on like an actual date? In some cases, people call it like test driving before you commit to the purchase. It's a terrible metaphor, actually. You know what I mean. At this age, during the PhD, a lot of women are thinking about their fertility. Do they need to freeze their eggs? Maybe they're not ready because they're so focused on their work, or maybe they are ready and they want to settle down. For me, I do not want kids as much as my family hates to hear that. I've never felt the urge to have kids. I was not the type of little girl that was like, oh my God, I really, really hope to have kids. I never in my life have felt that. I have friends that really want to have kids and they're even considering, adopting or having one on their own and being a single parent. I thought it was so beautiful that one of my friends, she really wants to settle down with a partner at some point. And she was like, I just want to give someone love. I would love just to give like a child love. And I thought that was so beautiful. Those are the type of parents we need in the world, not the ones that resent their kids, that force them onto things, but they genuinely want to bring someone up in the world with their love and kindness and care. Basically, this is what the PhD age is typically thinking about. And humans, we really, want touch, right? Physical touch. It's one of the love languages. There is a psychological impact to not having human touch. And actually, I don't necessarily mean that with intimacy. There's a lot of cultures that like hug, they give a kiss on the cheek. There is the option that you could have a pet. You can cuddle your dog or kitty. Animals are just the most wonderful thing, but it's also not the same thing as like having human contact. A lot of people don't talk about loneliness. It's not a very encouraged conversation to have. It's kind of like makes people feel awkward or the person feels shameful about it. But really, everybody is feeling it. Some people are in relationships and feeling lonely. Like, that's kind of worse. You don't feel seen. That's not good. That ain't good, girl. And it's sad because the only time you'll really hear about PhD students discussing sex is if it's part of the research. Yeah, they will talk at length and write pages and pages of sexuality in Gothic literature. I don't think I know anybody in my cohort that really is open about discussing. Oh, actually, there is one, but again, that's so rare. I wonder if it's because I'm in the UK as well, so there's a little bit of a more, oh, we don't talk about that. There is a loneliness crisis in the PhD community. The fact that we're not really encouraged to discuss it makes it worse. And there's not communities to kind of like normalize these types of discussions. All of this is to say, if you're feeling touch starved, lonely, and virginal or sexless, rather, you're not alone. There's so many people that feel this way. We're not talking about it. What is the answer to this? I don't know. Try to start little conversations with your friends, tiptoe into it. Don't just barge in on a conversation because that might be intense. Unless that person is okay. Like, I have certain friends that I can just be open about anything and they just be like, yeah. But then I have friends that they're like, this is too much of a spicy topic. STD tests. Oh my God. So sexual health, by the way, is so important. The sad thing about so many people is like, oh, I don't need to have condoms because I'm on birth control. No, you can still catch STIs. Hello. We should not be demonizing or shaming people that have STIs or STDs. It should be treated as any other disease, but however, you need to be freaking responsible. I do not tolerate people any gender who tries to evade getting tested or protecting themselves, or if they're casual with a lot of people and not communicating with every single person, it is just purely irresponsible. It's like if you are going to be sexually active, you need to be knowing what the consequences are. It's not just about pregnancy, it's about people's health. If it just so happens that accidentally, you thought you were doing everything right, you were genuinely getting tested, sometimes like you can still catch STIs. And when you do, you have the responsibility to communicate these to your partner. And if you're being casual with a lot of people, you have the responsibility to tell them that you have a certain STI. I don't know if that was like more discouraging of the, we were talking about loneliness and then, but make sure you're responsible. Not that you have the opportunity yet, but just saying when you do. And you can always love yourself. My whole point is that PhD students need to talk about sex more. And also, there needs to be a show or a movie about this, because what about the master students? What about the PhD students? But particularly PhD, there's so much good characters, golden nuggets of story that could be in that, because you could have like the mother, the 40-year-old mother dealing with that, a single guy, or the non-binary who is very free. These PhD students exist, but they're just not talking because it's just not welcome. I know that I would love to see a show like that. Next time it like kind of comes up in conversation, maybe start to be the change. Be the change. Be the sexual change that you want to see in the world. Wait, be the change of sexual discussion. That's it. Let me know your thoughts of anything that popped up in your mind. Thank you so much for being here, and please subscribe if you're not already. It genuinely helps so much. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. I am wishing you love, hugs, and legal drugs. Take care. Love you so much. Mwah.